Let's cut through the noise. Stop for a moment and confront the raw, uncomfortable truth. Are you sick of losing? Of being the one left in the dust, wondering how others consistently seem to seize control, while your good intentions pave the road to your own undoing? This isn't a gentle narrative to soothe your spirit. This is a scalpel-sharp examination of reality, a brutal reckoning. And it demands your absolute, unblinking attention. You weren't crippled by open hostility. You weren't vanquished in a fair fight. No. You were meticulously, systemically dismantled by the very facades you trusted, a seemingly benign smile that concealed predatory intent. A soft word delivered with surgical precision offered exactly when your guard was down, your soul exposed, and yearning for genuine connection, only to become the very lever used to destabilize you. And the chilling part, you bought into it. Every manipulative gesture, every carefully spun lie, every empty promise. Don't mistake this for foolishness. You weren't born naive. You were engineered to be compliant. The world in its cunning taught you a perilous doctrine that your boundless kindness, your unwavering patience, your unblemished sincerity, these would somehow serve as your impenetrable shield. They sold you the dangerous myth that such virtues would magically guarantee you love, respect, and crucially safety in a world that respects neither naivety nor vulnerability. Look around you now. Are you safe, or are you like far too many sifting through the desolate ruins of a slow, quiet erosion? Not the wreckage of declared war, but the silent desolation of a spirit meticulously picked apart, piece by agonizing piece by those who maintained a pleasant demeanor as they bled you dry. Your very essence wasn't shattered by brute force, but by calculated silence, by deliberate distance, by soul-crushing delay. You weren't outwitted by chance. You were systematically conditioned to be outwitted, taught to believe that pure intentions equated to an automatic victory, that if your heart was true, you simply could not lose. But you did. You lost. And the brutal truth is you're still losing because you haven't yet mastered the game. You've tasted the bitter fruit of believing otherwise, haven't you? You've operated under the flawed premise that genuine connection, that deep loyalty is enough to anchor people to you. But you did not understand, as Machiavelli did centuries ago, the cold, hard mechanics of human interaction when stripped of sentiment. He knew a fundamental, often brutal truth. People don't intrinsically stay because they love you in the pure, unconditional sense you understand. They stay because it directly serves their self-interest, because your presence, your resources, your emotional labor, your unwavering availability, they make their life easier. You streamline their existence. You absorb their chaos. You become their emotional cushion, their financial crutch, their sounding board, their silent keeper of secrets. And most critically, your quiet compliance, your inability to say no, your deep-seated aversion to conflict. These allow them to take and to keep taking without consequence. They consume your energy, your time, your peace. Knowing there will be no pushback, no negotiation, no painful repercussions for their relentless consumption. And what happens when the well runs dry, when there's nothing left to extract, nothing more to gain, no further convenience to be afforded? They vanish. Without a trace, without a whisper of warning, without a single contrite apology, just a stark, echoing void where they once stood, leaving you to sift through the emotional debris, questioning every gesture, every belief you once held sacred. This is the Machiavellian equation, laid bare utility drives connection. When utility ceases, so does the connection. This isn't cynical, it is simply factual. It's the inconvenient truth you must now integrate into your strategic playbook. In this devastating aftermath, you inevitably find yourself grappling with the most agonizing questions. Was my kindness a fatal flaw? Was my warmth a crippling weakness? Am I simply too gentle, too soft for a world that wields sharpness like a weapon? Let me be unequivocally clear. This isn't a video designed to offer comforting platitudes. This isn't some saccharine self-love narrative meant to lull you back into complacency. This is a declaration of war. A war you didn't even know you were losing. A conflict waged not on battlefields, but in the suffocating silence of your own unspoken needs. A war fought in the relentless giving of too much, and in the debilitating paralysis of never demanding nearly enough. If you've ever found yourself asking in the depths of your quiet despair, why do the manipulators always seem to win the entire game? Why do the honest, genuine souls consistently end up bleeding out while the ruthless flourish? Why does pouring my entire being into someone or something ultimately yield absolutely nothing in return? Stop, right here, right now. This immediate cessation of your previous thought patterns is the first strategic maneuver. Look again. But this time discard the naive rose-tinted glasses of the perpetual dreamer. Instead, gaze upon your reality and upon the actions of others with the unblinking, calculating mind of a true strategist. Because here we don't preach softness. We don't advocate for quiet submission, for enduring endlessly. We cultivate sharpness. We equip you to walk directly into the roaring inferno of conflict, of challenge, of ruthless competition, and to emerge not burned or broken, but tempered, refined, and undeniably stronger. This radical transformation begins with the systematic unlearning of the most insidious, most deeply ingrained lie you have ever been taught, that your inherent goodness, your virtue, your purity of intention will somehow magically guarantee your protection. It does not. In fact, in a world governed by Machiavellian principles, it often makes you a prime target. So what truly safeguards you? What fortifies your spirit against the predatory gaze and the insidious erosion? What protects you is clarity. Not the nebulous hope of others' good intentions, but a crystal clear, unblinking assessment of reality. It's the ability to see people not as you wish them to be, but as they are, through their actions, not their words. It's understanding their motives, their triggers, their vulnerabilities, and their strategic objectives, whether they articulate them or not. Clarity means dissecting situations to their bare bones, understanding the power dynamics at play, and identifying who benefits and at whose expense. This is strategic intelligence. What protects you is presence, not merely existing in a physical space, but occupying it with an unyielding, centered awareness. It's about being fully engaged in the moment, attuned to subtle cues, sensing shifts in energy, and projecting an aura of grounded authority. Presence means you are not easily swayed, easily dismissed, or easily overlooked. It's an unspoken declaration of your value and your non-negotiable existence. It's the opposite of disappearing or shrinking to accommodate others. This is strategic deterrence. What protects you is power, and not merely brute force or overt aggression. We are talking about the power of control over your emotions, your reactions, your narrative, your resources, and crucially, your choices. It is the sovereign power to decide who gains access to you, who benefits from your labor, and when to disengage from any interaction that diminishes you. This is the power to influence outcomes, to command respect, and to dictate the terms of engagement. This is strategic leverage. Now look deep within your bruised yet resilient core and ask yourself with unflinching honesty, are you finally ready to reclaim what was always rightfully yours? Are you ready to wield these true shields? This pain you've carried, this profound ache, it doesn't leave visible bruises. It doesn't openly bleed in a way the world can witness, prompting sympathy or intervention. But make no mistake, it shatters. Quietly. Insidiously. It's the kind of profound spiritual anguish that never screams its agony, precisely because you were never granted permission to scream. You were taught to internalize it, to suppress it, to endure in silence. It merely whispers its torment. It hardens your spirit in ways you didn't choose. It expands in the suffocating silence of your unexpressed pain, all because you were relentlessly conditioned to mistake this silent suffering for genuine, admirable strength. They observed your calm demeanor, your composed exterior, and mistook it for profound peace, a tranquil acceptance of your lot. But they never once bothered to ask the most crucial question. What was the true, crushing, soul-searing cost of maintaining that stillness? What sacrifices did you make? What parts of yourself did you silence to present that calm facade, because you were far from untouched by the relentless pressures? You were in essence unraveled in agonizing slow motion, not by overt acts of malicious cruelty, but by the insidious, invisible, relentless force of erosion. They leaned on your boundless empathy, your willingness to understand and forgive, until it completely buckled beneath their ever-increasing weight. They deliberately misinterpreted your silence, born of fear of exhaustion, of a misguided desire for harmony, as a tacit consent to their transgressions, a blank check for their behavior. They brazenly confused your unwavering loyalty for sheer blindness, believing you simply couldn't see their manipulations, or that if you did, you lacked the courage to confront them. And the most gut-wrenching, brutal truth of it all, you allowed them to. Not because you intrinsically lacked the strength, the conviction, the fortitude to resist, no, but because you clung desperately to a fragile, misguided hope. You genuinely believed that given enough time, given enough of your quiet endurance, given enough of your unwavering goodness, they would somehow fundamentally change. You held on to the naive conviction that if you just remained soft, pliable, and accommodating, it would, by some miraculous empathic osmosis, eventually soften their edges too. You truly believed that your innate kindness was an unbreakable shield protecting you from harm. You were convinced that love, real love, meant an unwavering commitment to simply staying, no matter the personal cost, no matter the mounting pain. And when that energy, that immense, irreplaceable outpouring of your essence, was never truly reciprocated, still against all logic, against every instinct of self-preservation, you stayed. Because that's precisely what society, what your upbringing, what the subtle, pervasive conditioning of the world taught you to do: stay good, stay kind, remain perpetually available, open and agreeable. Even when it gnaws at your very core, hollowing you out. Even when it meticulously kills your spirit, little by little, day by agonizing day. And so imperceptibly, insidiously, you began to disappear. To shrink your authentic self, to dim your own light. To silence your profound needs, your deepest desires. To morph into the person who never ever asked for much, who never demanded anything. The one who stubbornly stayed even when no one, absolutely no one, truly noticed you were internally shattering. And the world. Oh, the world applauded you for it, loudly. Not because it genuinely respected your quiet sacrifice, your relentless martyrdom, no, but because your silence, your compliance, your constant availability meant it never had to confront your uncomfortable truth. You became their ultimate convenience, their dependable safety net reliably catching them every time they stumbled, their soft, compliant place to always fall cushion their every misstep. And you, in a desperate, tragic attempt to rationalize your excruciating pain, you labeled it strength. But deep down in the quiet, bruised chambers of your soul, you knew. Something fundamental, something vital within you was slowly, irrevocably dying. Because real strength isn't found in being perpetually silent, in enduring limitless pain. It's forged in unwavering clarity, in seeing the truth without flinching. It's not about stubbornly remaining when every fiber of your being screams in agony. It's about possessing the uncommon wisdom, the strategic insight to know precisely when to finally walk away. Machiavelli, in his stark pragmatism, would have articulated it with brutal, unsparing precision. If your silence manages to maintain a fragile, superficial peace, but the price of that peace is the slow, agonizing erosion of your very soul, that is not virtue. That, my friend, is utter surrender. And you, my friend, you have surrendered far more times than you could ever possibly count. Not on a grand, sweeping battlefield with flags waving and trumpets blaring with the stakes clearly defined, but in the everyday, insidious, intimate betrayals of your authentic self. In countless conversations where your truth, your raw, undeniable truth, burned like a raging fire on the tip of your tongue, demanding to be spoken, and still you swallowed it whole, burying it deep. In relationships both personal and professional, where you saw the destructive patterns repeating crystal clear unfolding before your eyes, and still you stayed held captive by invisible chains of hope and misguided loyalty, because you were afraid. Terrified even. Afraid of being perceived as too much, too demanding, too intense, too unreasonable, afraid of the chilling, isolating silence that might inevitably follow if you dared to articulate your boundaries, to draw your lines in the sand. Afraid of being cast as the villain in someone else's carefully constructed narrative, sacrificing your own truth for their comfort. But now, with the clarity of a strategist, truly ask yourself, who ultimately has been the true villain in your story? Who truly benefited from your agonizing silence, who maintained their comfort, their peace of mind, their unearned privilege, by subtly, constantly forcing you to question your own inherent value, your own sanity. You've been bleeding, quietly, for far too long, and in a tragic mislabeling of pain, you've stubbornly called it strength. But bleeding is not strength. It is a fundamental, urgent signal, a blazing crimson flag that your very being has been waving desperately, warning you of imminent collapse, and that you've systematically ignored for far too long. Endurance without recognition, without mutual respect, without genuine reciprocation, that is not love. That is unequivocally erasure. And you, my friend, you deserve infinitely more than to be systematically erased, diminished, and made invisible in the service of someone else's comfort, someone else's agenda. This moment. This is your unequivocal turning point. This is where you fundamentally cease performing a fragile manufactured piece for individuals who actively thrive on your debilitating silence. This is where you bravely stop shrinking yourself, contorting your essence, suppressing your needs, so that others can perpetually stand tall at your expense, basking in their manufactured superiority. This is where you finally definitively stop mistaking your constant availability, your endless accommodation for some lofty, self-sacrificing virtue. This is where you begin the ruthless journey of outsmarting the conditioning that has held you captive. Let them whisper that you've changed. Let them observe your new resolve, your sharpened edges, and declare you're colder now, more distant, unreachably harder. Let them, because they are, in fact, absolutely right. And what they've irrevocably lost is unfettered access to that previous version of you, the one who heartbreakingly never ever said no. The one who was a convenient resource, a willing pawn. You are no longer their convenient mirror reflecting back only what they wish to see. You are no longer their ready bandage soothing their every scrape. You are no longer their soft cushion absorbing every jarring impact. You are something profoundly different now. Something heavier, something sharper, something quieter, more precise, more exact. You are sovereign. Your absolute dominance begins within with the mastery of self, and then radiates outward, shaping your environment according to your will. This is only the very beginning of your true reign. The Strategist's Arsenal, mastering the art of outsmarting. To achieve, and more importantly, to maintain absolute dominance, the external strategies we've discussed must be underpinned by a profound internal shift. This is where the true battle is won or lost, within the architecture of your own mind. The Machiavellian individual doesn't merely act dominant. They are dominant from the core of their being. 1. The power of unseen observation beyond the surface. The first and perhaps most vital tool in your strategic arsenal is the ability to observe without being observed. Most people react to the obvious, to the loud, and the dramatic. A true strategist sees the subtle, the unsaid, the patterns that betray true intentions. Stop listening to what people say. They believe what they promise, or how they want to be perceived. Start watching what they do, especially when they think no one is looking, or when their actions directly contradict their words. Look for consistency or inconsistency in their behavior, particularly when personal gain is at stake. Example 1. The charismatic usurper. You meet someone who is overwhelmingly charming, charismatic, and quick to offer help. They seem selfless. An ordinary person would be disarmed. A strategist, however, doesn't just bask in the glow. They observe. Does this charisma extend to those who can offer nothing in return? Do their promises materialize? Do they take credit for others' work, subtly undermining colleagues while maintaining a pleasant facade? If you notice a pattern of calculated generosity that only benefits them in the long run, or a tendency to discard people once their utility is exhausted, you've just collected vital intelligence. You haven't reacted emotionally. You've merely observed the playbook in action. Example 2. The emotional blackmailer. Someone close to you consistently uses guilt, subtle threats of withdrawal, or dramatic displays of victimhood to get their way. An empathic person might rush to soothe, to comply. A strategist, however, sees the manipulative pattern. They observe the precise triggers that lead to these emotional outbursts, the desired outcome, and the frequency. They understand that this isn't genuine distress, it's a behavioral tactic. By observing without engaging, you strip the tactic of its power. You learn their weapon without ever having to feel its sting again. 2. Strategic communication. The art of precision and silence. Words are not just tools for connection. They are instruments of power and often misdirection. Dominance is not achieved by always having the last word, but by having the most effective word, or by knowing when no words are needed at all. Sometimes clarity is your enemy. Method. The calculated ambiguity. This isn't lying. It's providing just enough information to keep them guessing, to sow doubt, or to subtly steer their actions without overt direction. It creates a vacuum they will often rush to fill, often revealing their own biases or objectives in the process. Example 1. The interrogative boss. Your boss presses you for a precise timeline on a complex project with many unknowns. Giving a definitive date risks failure and blame. A strategist doesn't lie, but doesn't overcommit. Instead of, "It will be done by Friday," try, "Based on the current variables, my team is working towards the most efficient possible delivery. We anticipate a robust update by end-of-day Wednesday, which will solidify the remaining timeline." This creates a sense of action and progress without locking you into a potentially impossible deadline. It shifts the focus to your process rather than an absolute outcome you can't yet guarantee. Method. The eloquence of silence. Often the most powerful response is no response at all. Silence is a weapon. It forces others to fill the void, often revealing their desperation, their discomfort, or their true agenda. In negotiations, silence can extract concessions. In confrontations, it can disarm an aggressor. When you refuse to engage in pointless debates or emotional back and forths, you deny others the energy and validation they seek from provoking you. Example 2. The accusatory partner. A partner or colleague feeling insecure makes a passive-aggressive remark or an unsubstantiated accusation designed to provoke a defensive reaction from you. Your conditioning might compel you to defend, to explain, to justify. A strategist, however, simply holds the silence. A calm, unwavering gaze, a slight pause, and then a deliberate change of subject, or simply continuing with what you were doing. This denies them the emotional payoff of your reaction. Their accusation hangs in the air, exposed and unsupported by your engagement. It demonstrates that their words have no power over your internal state or your actions. 3. Leveraging vulnerabilities. Theirs and yours. Every person has vulnerabilities: ego, fear, greed, insecurity, a need for validation. A strategist recognizes these as points of influence. Method. The calculated appeal to self-interest. People are moved by what benefits them. To outsmart someone isn't always about direct confrontation. It's about aligning your desired outcome with their self-interest. Frame your requests, your proposals, your actions not in terms of what you need, but in terms of how it directly benefits them. Example 1. Gaining cooperation from a reluctant peer. You need a skeptical colleague's cooperation on a project. Instead of emphasizing your project's importance, which they may not care about, frame it in terms of their potential gain. By collaborating on this, your department will gain unprecedented visibility with senior leadership, and we can streamline a process that directly impacts your quarterly metrics, making your team look exceptional. You're speaking their language, appealing to their ambition or need for recognition. Method. The strategic understatement. Don't always reveal your full strength or your entire hand. Sometimes a subtle understatement of your capabilities or intentions can lead others to underestimate you, causing them to drop their guard or make miscalculations. This is the art of the hidden reserve. Example 2. Entering a new competitive environment. When joining a new team or company, avoid boasting about past achievements or outlining every ambitious goal. Instead, project a calm, competent, but slightly unassuming presence. Let your actions speak louder than your initial words. This gives you time to observe, assess the landscape, and allows others to misjudge your potential. When you eventually reveal your full capabilities, it comes as a surprise, making your moves far more impactful. 4. Emotional control. The unbreakable poker face. Your emotions are your greatest vulnerability in the strategic game. If others can provoke anger, fear, or insecurity in you, they have immediate leverage. Absolute dominance requires an almost impenetrable emotional fortress. Method: the unresponsive mirror. When someone attempts to provoke you to elicit a reaction to get under your skin, become a mirror that reflects nothing. Do not flinch. Do not change expression. Do not allow your breathing to falter. This deprives them of the energy they seek to drain from you. Their aggression, their manipulation, their attempts at destabilization bounce off you harmlessly, reflecting back onto them. Example: the aggressive negotiator. In a high-stakes negotiation, the other party raises their voice, uses personal attacks, or displays anger, hoping to intimidate you into submission. Your trained instinct might be to retaliate, to become defensive, or to shrink. A strategist maintains an unreadable, calm demeanor. Their face reveals nothing. Their voice remains level. They might even pause for a beat, letting the other person's outburst hang in the air before calmly reiterating their position or asking a detached, analytical question. This immediately disarms the aggressor, making their tactics ineffective and often forcing them to retreat or reveal their true intentions. 5. The element of unpredictability. Shattering expectations. Humans crave patterns and predictability. They try to fit you into a box based on your past behavior. To outsmart them, you must sometimes shatter these expectations, becoming unpredictable, keeping them off balance. Method: the strategic shift. If you've consistently been the one who always helps, always listens, always gives, suddenly withdraw that availability. If you've been the quiet observer, suddenly speak up with an incisive, unexpected insight. This isn't about being erratic. It's about making calculated departures from your established patterns to disrupt their assumptions about you. Example 1. The constant borrower. Someone always expects you to bail them out financially or with favors. Your pattern is to comply. A strategic shift means, without warning, denying their request. I'm unable to assist with that right now. No apology, no lengthy explanation. The shock of the unexpected no forces them to reevaluate their reliance on you and their assumptions about your limitless availability. Example 2. The predictable complier. In team meetings, you always follow the established agenda, never questioning. Suddenly, when a key decision is being made, you introduce a completely new perspective or a challenging question that forces everyone to reconsider. This unexpected contribution not only asserts your intellectual dominance, but also signals that you are no longer a passive participant. 6. Building strategic alliances. Power through association. Dominance is rarely achieved in isolation. Machiavelli understood the necessity of alliances, but also their transient nature. These are not friendships. They are strategic partnerships formed for mutual benefit and dissolved when that benefit ceases or a better opportunity arises. Method: the utility-based network. Identify individuals whose skills, resources, or influence can serve your strategic objectives. Approach these relationships with a clear understanding of what you offer and what you need in return. Focus on areas of complementary strengths. These alliances are transactional, not emotional. Example 1. The ambitious project. You want to lead a significant project but lack a specific technical expertise. You identify a colleague who possesses that expertise and also seeks career advancement. You propose a partnership where you leverage their technical skills and in return ensure they receive prominent credit and visibility in the final presentation, thus boosting their profile. This is a mutually beneficial arrangement that serves your overarching goal of project leadership. Example 2. Navigating office politics. To achieve a promotion, you realize you need the endorsement of a powerful senior manager. Instead of trying to be friends, analyze their current challenges or pet projects, offer strategic practical assistance, or provide valuable information that directly helps them achieve their goals without expecting immediate reciprocity. Your value becomes evident through utility, making you a desirable ally when they consider promotions. 7. The long game patience and relentless execution. Absolute dominance is not an overnight conquest. It is the culmination of countless small, precise, strategic maneuvers executed over time. It requires immense patience and an unyielding commitment to your ultimate objective. Method: the accumulation of small wins. Don't wait for a single grand opportunity. Identify small, low-risk opportunities to assert your clarity, presence, or power. Each small victory. A boundary held a manipulative tactic, deflected a moment of strategic silence. Builds confidence, refines your skills, and signals your new reality to others. Example 1. Establishing respect. If you've been constantly interrupted in conversations, start by simply holding up a hand subtly or saying, "Just a moment, I haven't finished." Do this consistently. It's a small assertion of dominance over conversational flow. Over time, others will learn not to interrupt you. Method: strategic. Waiting and observation. Sometimes the most powerful move is no move at all. Allowing situations to unfold, observing how others react under pressure, and waiting for the opportune moment when their vulnerabilities are exposed. This is a hallmark of the master strategist. Impulsivity is the enemy of dominance. Example 2. A heated conflict among peers. Instead of jumping in to mediate or take sides, a strategist observes the dynamics, the alliances forming, the weaknesses revealed. They wait for the moment when a resolution is truly needed, or when one party has exhausted their resources, then step in with a clear, decisive solution that benefits their overarching objectives, positioning themselves as the ultimate problem solver and leader. The inner fortress psychology of the dominant mind. To achieve, and more importantly, to maintain absolute dominance, the external strategies we've discussed must be underpinned by a profound internal shift. This is where the true battle is won or lost, within the architecture of your own mind. The Machiavellian individual doesn't merely act dominant. They are dominant from the core of their being. 1. Cultivating emotional detachment, the unbreakable core. This isn't about becoming a robot devoid of feeling. It's about achieving mastery over your emotional responses, so they become strategic tools, not vulnerabilities to be exploited. When others seek to provoke, to guilt-trip, to flatter, or to incite fear, your emotional detachment means their hooks find no purchase. You observe their attempts with the calm, analytical curiosity of a scientist, rather than reacting with the volatile emotions of a pawn. Method: the pause and analyze. Protocol: when faced with an emotionally charged situation or a manipulative tactic, consciously engage a brief internal pause. Instead of reacting mentally, ask, what emotion are they trying to evoke in me? Why? How does my reaction benefit them? This brief analytical interlude creates a buffer between stimulus and response, allowing you to choose your reaction rather than be driven by it. Method: observer. Mindset: practice viewing your own emotions and the emotions of others as data points. I am observing anger rising within me, rather than I am angry. This slight mental distance empowers you to manage the emotion rather than be consumed by it. Example: the guilt-tripping family member. Your relative perpetually tries to guilt you into sacrificing your plans for theirs. Your old self would feel immediate obligation, then resentment. Your dominant self, however, observes the pattern. They note the precise phrasing, the dramatic sigh, the implied obligation. Internally, you acknowledge the attempt to induce guilt, but you don't feel the guilt. Your response becomes, "I understand that's what you'd like, but my schedule doesn't permit it." Your tone remains neutral, even empathetic to their desire, but utterly devoid of the emotional capitulation they seek. You've become an emotional wall, not a permeable sponge. 2. The iron conviction. Unshakable self-belief. Dominance stems from an inherent, unwavering belief in your own capabilities, your worth, and your right to dictate your terms. This isn't arrogance born of insecurity. It's a quiet, deep-seated knowing that fuels your actions and projects an aura of authority that others instinctively defer to. When you know who you are, what you deserve, and what you will not tolerate, your boundaries become less about negotiation and more about established facts. Method evidence-based self-esteem. Build your self-belief not on fleeting compliments, but on tangible achievements and consistent adherence to your own principles. Every boundary you hold, every strategic move you execute successfully, every instance where you prioritized your sovereignty becomes irrefutable evidence of your strength. Method: eliminate internal dissent. Silence the inner critic that whispers, doubts, fears, or the old conditioning. This voice is a relic of your past, designed to keep you small and compliant. Consciously challenge and dismiss thoughts that undermine your resolve or question your right to lead. Example: navigating unsolicited advice. Someone attempts to subtly undermine your confidence by offering unsolicited critical advice disguised as helpfulness. Your old self might internalize it, doubt themselves. Your dominant self, rooted in unshakable self-belief, might calmly say, "Thank you for your perspective. I'll consider it." But internally, you know your path, your expertise, and you filter the advice through the lens of your own goals, dismissing what doesn't align without emotional residue. Your conviction acts as a deflector shield. 3. Mastery of fear. The ally in the shadows. Fear is a primal force, and most people are paralyzed by it. The dominant mind doesn't eradicate fear, but understands its mechanics, and at times even leverages it. Fear of loss, fear of rejection, fear of being disliked. These are the chains that bind the compliant. The sovereign breaks these chains by embracing the potential outcomes, good or bad, and moving forward nonetheless. Method: exposure therapy. Strategic risks. Begin taking small, calculated risks that confront your fears. Say no to a small request that previously terrified you. Begin a conversation you've been dreading. Each successful confrontation diminishes fear's power. Method: worst-case scenario analysis. Instead of letting fear be a nebulous terror, bring it into the light. What is the absolute worst thing that could happen if you assert yourself, if you walk away, if you demand your worth? Often the reality is far less terrifying than the imagined dread. And once you've acknowledged the worst, you can strategize how to mitigate it or simply accept it as a potential cost of sovereignty. Example: initiating a necessary confrontation. You need to confront a situation that has been draining you, perhaps with a difficult family member or a manipulative colleague. The fear of their reaction of conflict is immense. Your dominant self, however, runs the scenario. What if they get angry? What if they stop talking to me? Then you ask, what is the cost of not doing this? The cost of continued erosion. By facing the fear head-on and accepting the potential fallout as a necessary step towards reclaiming your peace, you transcend it. Your courage isn't the absence of fear, but the decision to act in spite of it. 4. The burden of sovereignty. The solitude of power. Absolute dominance, true sovereignty over your life and your interactions often comes with a unique form of solitude. Not loneliness, but the quiet understanding that your path is distinct, and fewer will truly understand the depths of your strategic mind or the sacrifices you've made to reach this apex. Those who once exploited you will withdraw. Those who sought comfort will find you less pliable. This is not a flaw. It is a feature of power. Method. Understand the cost. Recognize that not everyone will celebrate your transformation. Some will resent it. Some will mourn the version of you they could manipulate. Embrace this. The approval of the crowd is often given to the compliant, not the dominant. Method. Find your inner circle. Power doesn't mean isolation. It means choosing your alliances and your true confidants with unparalleled discernment. You will seek out those who respect strength, who understand strategy, and who appreciate clarity, rather than those who simply enjoy your endless giving. This circle will be smaller, but infinitely more valuable. Sustaining the reign. The art of perpetual dominance. Achieving dominance is one thing. Maintaining it is another entirely. Power is not a static state. It is a dynamic equilibrium that requires constant vigilance adaptation and ruthless self-assessment. 1. Perpetual adaptation. The evolving strategist. The world changes. People change. Tactics evolve. A truly dominant individual never rests on their laurels. They are perpetual learners, always observing new patterns, new vulnerabilities, new forms of manipulation, and new opportunities for strategic advantage. Method. The scenario. Playbook. Regularly mentally or physically play out potential future scenarios. If X happens, how might others react? What is my strategic response? What leverage do I have? This foresight allows you to anticipate threats and opportunities, turning potential crises into strategic advantages. Example: navigating shifting social dynamics. Your social group or professional environment undergoes a change. New people arrive, old alliances shift. Instead of being caught off guard, a dominant individual observes the new landscape. Who are the new players? What are their motivations? How do they fit into the existing power structure? They adapt their communication, their boundaries, and their alliances to maintain their position or to seize new opportunities for influence. 2. Information supremacy. The endless pursuit of knowledge. Knowledge is power. In a world where data is constantly flowing, the dominant individual is a relentless intelligence gatherer analyzing every piece of information to gain an edge. This goes beyond just people. It extends to understanding systems, rules, unspoken norms, and loopholes. Method. The unspoken curriculum. Learn from everything. Learn from your past mistakes, from the successes of others, from the failures of your rivals. Study human psychology, power dynamics, negotiation tactics, and even history. For patterns of dominance and submission are ancient. Example: overcoming a bureaucratic obstacle. Instead of just hitting a wall, a strategist learns the specific rules, the unwritten procedures, the key decision-makers, and their motives. They understand why the obstacle exists and who benefits from it. With this information, they can then design a precise strategy to navigate around it, or even to dismantle it, leveraging the system's own rules against itself. 3. Managing perceptions. Sculpting your narrative. While substance is paramount, perception is the currency of influence. The dominant individual doesn't leave their reputation to chance. They strategically manage how they are perceived, projecting the exact image required for their objectives. This is not about being fake, but about controlling the narrative around your actions. Method. The controlled disclosure. You decide what information about yourself, your intentions or your capabilities is released and when. You reveal only what serves your strategic goals, keeping your true depths veiled. This creates an aura of mystique and power. Example: projecting strength without arrogance. To maintain dominance, you need to project strength, but not arrogance that invites opposition. A strategist might allow others to discover their accomplishments through their actions or through indirect channels rather than boasting. They might display quiet confidence, focusing on results rather than self-promotion. This subtly reinforces their capability without inviting direct challenge. 4. The strategic use of reciprocity and consequence. The iron hand in a velvet glove. Maintaining power not just about taking, it's about a calculated interplay of generosity and ruthlessness. You understand that people respond to incentives and disincentives. Method: the calculated favor. Occasionally offer a significant favor or assistance to someone who can later be a strategic ally or whose goodwill might be needed. This builds a silent debt, a subtle lever of influence, without being overtly transactional. Method: the swift, decisive consequence. When a clear boundary is violated or a strategic threat emerges, the response must be immediate, proportionate, and effective. This isn't about emotional retribution, but a clear, non-negotiable message that disrespect will not be tolerated. This reinforces your position of power. Example: neutralizing a whispering campaign. If someone is subtly undermining your reputation through gossip, a strategist doesn't engage in a public argument. Instead, they might privately confront the source with precise, factual knowledge of their actions gained through observation, or they might discreetly gather evidence to discredit the source's own integrity within the larger network. The consequence is silent, surgical, and devastates the source's ability to continue their attack. 5. Eliminating threats. The art of strategic neutralization. True dominance minimizes overt conflict. It means understanding that direct confrontation is often a last resort. Instead, threats are neutralized strategically, often before they fully materialize. Method: redirection and recontextualization. If a direct challenge emerges, a strategist might redirect the energy, recontextualize the issue to their advantage, or even unite the challenger against a common external enemy. Method: controlled erosion of influence. Instead of directly attacking a rival, a strategist might subtly undermine their sources of power, their alliances, their reputation, their resources, until their influence erodes, naturally making them less of a threat. Example: handling a direct challenger. In a meeting, a colleague directly challenges your authority or a proposal you put forth. Instead of defending immediately, a strategist might calmly say, "That's an interesting perspective. Perhaps you could elaborate on the data supporting that claim or the specific implications for the overall project timeline." This shifts the burden of proof onto them, often exposing their lack of preparation or depth, subtly discrediting them without a direct argument. The new covenant: living as sovereign. This transformation isn't just about gaining power over others. It's ultimately about achieving absolute dominance over your own life. It's about shedding the internal chains of past conditioning and reclaiming your inherent sovereignty. The internal peace you now experience is not born of external tranquility, but from an unwavering clarity of purpose and an unshakable control over your own responses. You no longer bleed quietly because you understand that bleeding is a choice. You no longer sacrifice your soul for a fleeting false peace because you know the true cost of surrender. You now possess the discerning eye to see the truth, the strategic mind to navigate the complexities, and the unyielding will to protect your territory, your time, your energy, your boundaries, your self-worth. This is the ultimate freedom, the freedom to be, to act, and to define your own reality, unburdened by the expectations or manipulations of others. The grand conclusion: your new reign begins. Genuine power, true dominance, doesn't need to roar. It often makes its most profound statements through what it ceases to do. It stops explaining itself. For explanations are often invitations for negotiation, for doubt, for debate. A sovereign presence simply is, and its actions speak louder than any words. It stops bleeding itself dry for others, for it recognizes that its resources, time, energy, emotional reserves are finite, precious, and must be guarded, fiercely deployed strategically, rather than given away indiscriminately. The well is no longer open to all who demand. It stops tirelessly trying to prove its worth, for it understands that its value is inherent, not contingent upon external validation or the fleeting approval of others. It ceases to perform, to seek applause, to earn acceptance. It simply is. And sometimes its most decisive, most impactful move is to walk away without a sound, without fanfare, without a dramatic exit, without a single lingering glance back. It allows its eloquent absence to do all the talking. It allows the stark, echoing void it leaves behind to communicate the true, profound, and often devastating cost of disrespecting its sovereignty. And when the world, with its self-serving curiosity, its nostalgic yearning for the pliable version of you, eventually asks, whatever happened to the gentle one, the soft one, the compliant one, the one who always put others first? Let them discover the hard way, the profound, unrecoverable cost of losing someone who at long last courageously chose themselves. Let them feel the absence of the source they once exploited. Let that absence be your ultimate demonstration of absolute dominance. This is not a path for the faint of heart. It is a path for those ready to shed the shackles of expectation and embrace the ruthless, yet ultimately liberating truth of Machiavelli's wisdom, that true power resides in the ability to outsmart, to strategize, and to dominate not just others, but the very circumstances of your own life. Your reign begins now. You are the architect of your own dominion. Step into your power.